Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing the 7th chapter of Panchadashi, that is the Trupti Deepa Prakaranam of Vidyaranya. So we just completed the sloka 88. Ahamartha Parichagat Aham Brahmeti Dhikutaha Aham Brahmeti Dhikutaha Naivam Amsasya Hityagaha Naivam Amsasya Hityagaha Bhagalakshana Yoditaha. So Aham Artha Parichagat. So long I have been using that I am, but I have been using as though I am this. So that has to be Parichagam. That means you have to give up the wrong notions about your own self, because it is a wrong notion, because it is negated later. So aham this, because it's a wrong notion, because the equation itself is not valid. So ahankara says I am so and so is equal I am this, I am this, I am this. That's our biodata. But therefore the very concept that I am this itself is fundamentally wrong, because I am a subject and this is an object. I am a conscious entity and this is an inert entity. So the very equation is wrong. At the same time, we are living all through our life with the notion that I am this, I am this, I am this, starting from the identification with the body and the mind and the intellect and all the way. So it is the continuation of the life after life with the notion that aham dehaha, I am this body, or I am the mind, I am the intellect, and so on, and therefore I perform the actions because the body, my intellect are limited, and intrinsically I am limitless. Therefore when I take myself as limited, the limitations of the body, my intellect has been superimposed on myself, and therefore I cannot, that is not the real truth. So I try to solve a problem where I want to see or seize the limitations of this part, that I am this, and I want to make it this as big as possible by having this, having that, having that. That's how we said the rat race started, because I want to acquire more and more. That way I become full, because fullness is the sign of happiness. When you are happy, you are contented. That means there is no more things that you need at that time until another desire props in. But if you have everything in the whole universe itself, there is nothing for you need anymore. There is no more desire for it, because you have everything. That means that is the only thing that is contentment, is you have to become infinite. You cannot become infinite if you are finite, because logically a finite cannot become infinite by adding a finite things. Therefore, the pursuit for happiness can never end. At the same time, I cannot stop pursuing for happiness. So this is the life after life, a struggle that is meaningless, because I will never achieve what I want to achieve. In all my pursuits, I am trying to gain happiness, but happiness can only be when it is full. So Purnatvam, Trupti, or contentment in life comes only when I am completely full. There is nothing more I can add. That can happen only when I have the infinite, or Aham Brahmasmi. But I cannot become Brahman by adding finite things, because you cannot become infinite by adding finite and finite. Therefore, this problem can never be solved the way we are solving. So scripture says the reason is you cannot but try to solve the problem, and you cannot solve the problem. So what is the suffer? That's what is called samsara. Samsara means I am going life after life after life and taking different jivas, bodies, in order to solve this problem, which cannot be solved by this way. Therefore, Vedanta comes to our rescue, says you are trying to solve a problem where there is no real problem because you are already full. Because you are the very source of happiness. So happiness is not out there, but comes from your own self. And that self is already full. That means you are Atmaniyeva Atmana Dushtaha. Therefore, you are contented by yourself because the self that you are contented with is complete and full by itself. And that's what has to be understood. So, I am this notion. So, ahamartam parityagat. I am giving up the wrong notions about myself, because wrong notions about myself is I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. Desa kala vastu parichinnatvam is the notion that I am. That has to be given up, but I won't given up unless I realize the truth. Aham brahmeti dhihi kutaha. So because I had to understand that aham brahma iti dhihi, the knowledge has to be taken place. Therefore, the question is, how can a limited I become unlimited? Limited I cannot become unlimited. But I am taking unnecessarily the superimposition of the limitations on myself, and therefore I am limited. I am not really limited. So therefore, I am not really the finite guy searching for happiness. I am already full, even ajnana kale api, even when I am not doing the search for happiness, I am already full. Distraction. Aham brahmeti iti dhihi kutaha naivam amsasya hi tyagaha bhaga lakshana yoditoho na evam amsasya tyaga. So really I am not giving up any part of it. I am only claiming myself what I am already am. So therefore, na evam amsasya hi tyagaha. So I am not giving up. It's not that thinking itself is wrong, because there is no rejection. What I am rejecting is, I am only rejecting the superficial, incorrect, the knowledge of what I am. So I am rejecting what is not there and taking what it is. What is not there is, I am limited, desakala vastu parichinnam. I am limited by space-wise, time-wise and object-wise. That's why I am trying to solve a problem. What I want to become, desakala vastu aparichinnatvam, where there is no limitations of space-wise, because I am here and I am not there. That limitation, time-wise, I am born in such and such a time and I am going to die in such and such a time. And that was the whole problem of Arjuna in the Vishada Yoga. He thought that Bhishma and Dronacharya and all his kins are going to be not there anymore once they die. So death is not a separation, death is not the end of everything. It's only separation of the antakaranam, the subtle body, from the gross body. That's only the death. Because the gross body is no more conducive to exhaust the next set of vasanas. So na evam, it's not the right way to think that I am going to get lost in the process of realization. It's not I am going to have a better understanding of my own self. So amshasya bhagatyaga lakshanaha uditaha. So what part is really rejected has already been discussed in the bhagatyaga lakshana. So what have we discussed? I am discussing when I say I am, this Tattvamasi statement that involves a rejection of the contradictory qualifications of myself and the contradictory qualifications of the Ishvara, because he is Jagatkarta Ishvaraha and he is Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman and Sarvavyapakaha. I am only Alpavyapakaha, Alpashaktiman, and therefore you cannot equate this I am with that. But what we are equating is the essence of I am and essence of Ishvara. Essence is that Brahman only, a reflection of Brahman in this pure Sattva is Ishvara, because he is a knowledge, Sarvajnaha, that is related to the Sattva Guna, whereas I am only reflection of impure Sattvam, because I have a Rajas and Tamasic gunas along with it. Therefore the impurities, therefore I need a purification in order to recognize even that I am pure Sat, which is same as the Ishvara, in the sense that the contradictory qualifications of I am and Ishvara or Viruddha qualifications are rejected, and what is taken is the essence is equated. So when I say ring is the same as a bangle, the attributes of the ring and the attributes of the bangle are different. So ring is small, its ID, its internal diameter, outside diameter, ellipticity, etc. are different from a bangle. Bangle has a different size and different purpose, different utilities and all that. And different date of birth also. But yet when I say bangle is same as the necklace or the ring, or the ring is the same as the bangle, what am I equating? Equating is not the viruddha, the attributes of the ring and the bangle. I have to discard that, only equate the essence. Essence is from which it came, by which it sustained, into which it goes back. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayam tabisham mishanti, tad vijnasasva, tad brahmeti. That is Brahman, and that has to be understood by rejecting the contradictory qualifications of aham and tat, and then only the bhagatyaga valid. So when I say aham artha parityagat, what am I giving up is the viruddha qualifications of that I superimpose of myself on this, that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect, I am this, all my biodata, everything is superficial superimposition on myself that I am. I am beyond all that only. That is needed only for transaction purposes. Yes, this body is required to transact with the other bodies, or this mind is required in order to think about the world, and also the intellect is required. Those are for the transactional purposes, but the absolute is that which is remain the same in all periods of time alone is satyam, trikala abhaditam satyam, and that is that which doesn't change, undergo any change, and that I am has to be recognized. So that amsasya hityagaha bhagalakshana yuditaha. So this is what to be understood. So we discuss how people misinterpret even Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's statement that you have to reject the mind. So who has to reject the mind? Mind has to reject the mind. How can mind reject the mind? It's only rejection of the wrong notions in the mind has to be rejected by the mind only. How can the mind reject the wrong notions in the mind? By having a right understanding. So how do you get a right understanding? By Vedanta Shravanam alone, by listening to the scriptures. Why scriptures provide that knowledge is going to be discussed further. With that, we will take up the sloka 89. Antahkarana samtyagat, antahkarana samtyagat, avasishte chidatmani, aham brahmeti vakyena, aham brahmeti vakyena, brahmatva sakshi nichyate. Together. Antahkarana samtyagat, avasishte chidatmani, aham brahmeti vakyena, brahmatva sakshi nichyate. So antahkarana samtyagat, samyak tyagat. So by rejecting the antahkarana, by negating the reality associated with the antahkarana, I cannot reject the antahkarana. Why? Because antahkarana is involved in rejection. So saying that the thief has to arrest the thief. Who is the thief? The thief himself is the one that is causing a problem. So how can he do? He has to purify himself. That is the only way that one can become a good person there. So antahkarana, antahkaranam is the mind and intellect has to samtyagat, total rejection. Total rejection of what? Total rejection of the wrong notions in the mind. What are the wrong notions? I am this. Why it is a wrong notion? Because I am a subject, a conscious entity, and this is an inert entity. So the very equation is wrong, because the very logically it is not wrong, but I am operating whole life itself with the notion that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect, and therefore I am not that body, that intellect, that object is different from mine, and I want that also to be mine. All that struggles in life is because of the wrong notion about myself. And that is for antahkarana samtyagat. Why I am taking? Because I am taking the world is real. That's the problem. So what am I rejecting? I'm not rejecting the world. I'm not going anywhere. But because I cannot go outside the world. So I had to be in the world. But what I'm rejecting is the wrong notions about myself and the world. That's what is essentially Antakarana Samtyaga. Samtyaga means total rejection of the wrong notions or the reality that I have assumed to the plurality. That's what essentially Samtyagat here. Antakarana Samtyagat, by negation of the reality to the inner instruments of totally Avasishte Chidatmani. So Avasishte Chidatmani in the Chidatma. Chidat means the Atma of the Chit Swarupam. Chidatma. That means pure consciousness that I am. So what am I rejecting? I am rejecting this which is inert. So I am rejecting the inert identification of the inert and claiming that I am conscious entity only. That is what essentially Chidatmani. Avasishte, that means that which is arrived at or left after rejection. Neti neti vakyani. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. How do I arrive it? I am is this is the inert, anything is the achit, or any this is object only. Any objectifiable entity is inert by definition, because anya adhina sattvam is the inert entity. Anya adhina, the prakashatvam, is also inert. That means it has to be illumined by something other than myself. Chair doesn't say I am chair, or any inert object say I am there. So therefore anything that cannot identify itself with a conscious entity, I am rejecting itself, and therefore I had to this cannot be there. So who am I? I am rejecting not this, not this, not this. Starting with the world, of course I am not the world, that is easy, but I am not the mind also, because the the body problems are so intense. I am taking the body as myself, because the knee pains or the back pains and all the body pains becomes my problem, and I beautify the body thinking that I am going to be beautiful in the process. All that is required only for transactions, but that has become taken for granted, and that's where the problem is. So aham avasishte chidatmani. So by rejection, what am I gaining? How do I arrive at myself? I arrive because I am, because any other qualification is only an object. I am unqualified because I am the very subject which cannot be objectified. I cannot say I am this again. Any this is I am rejecting. What I am saying, I am. What is that I am? I am that I am. I am pure existent that I am, and I, the consciousness. So aham in Sanskrit includes both the consciousness and existence also, and therefore aham avasishte chidatmani. That consciousness that I am is the self that I am. So I am rejecting anything unconscious, because anything unconscious is an object, and because I am a subject and a non-object. Subject cannot be objectified. So what Ramana Maharshi says, analyze the analyst. You analyze how do I analyze the analyst? It cannot be by objectification, because if you objectify, then it's no more analyst. So I am the one who is analyzing everything else, but I cannot analyze myself. How? Because I need the mind again to analyze myself, but I have to see what is the very source of the consciousness in the mind itself. That is the inquiry. So manasantu kim margane krute naiva manasam marga arjavad. When Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says that, one has to be careful what exactly he means, or what exactly it should be done in order to arrive at. So therefore in the Upadesasara, he also says drusyavaritam chittamatmanaha chittadarsanam tattvadarsanam. Dushyavaritam chittamatmanaha. Drusyavaritam, dushyabhyaha varitam manaha. The mind that is devoid of all the objects are left with is only the subject, and that is the essence of I am. How do I do that? By using the mind only, because there is no other instruments we have. So it's not that going away from the mind or destroying the mind, but using the mind, destroying the wrong notions of the mind. wrong notions cannot be destroyed by any other way. Only way they can be destroyed is by correct understanding. So say I am seeing a snake there, even though it is a rope. So what should I do? Kill the snake. So how can I kill the snake if there is no real snake there? So if it is a real, you can thinking about it. But so there is no real world or real world. This for me to act anything, only way is the understanding is there is no reality to this plurality that I am perceiving. What I am perceiving is okay, but even perceived objects is only apparent but not real. So how do you say that? How do you say this is not real? It is just like in the dream where I am perceiving the plurality, but when I am awakened to the higher state of consciousness, I recognize all the forests and the rivers and the suns and the moons and the mountains and all that, the air and the heat and all that, everything is gone, because I say it's only not real. And when I get up, I was still in the dark room where I was sleeping, but I was in the very bright forest when I was dreaming. So all that dream world is dissolved into the reality that I am. In the same way, as long as I am in the world, as long as it is difficult to recognize the unreality of the world. In the case of dream, so this way the dream world and the waking world differ. In the case of a dream world where I am seeing the plurality, but also I am taking the reality, because a dreamer thinks the dream is a real, not a dream but real. So I am there, I cannot use a discriminative intellect by viveka. I cannot, because I don't have it. If I have it, I won't be able to dream. So therefore, I have to get out of the body of the dream body to come to the waking state with the waking body. Then only there I can recognize the dream world is not real. Whereas in this waking state, I can develop a viveka. Viveka is discriminative intellect. What kind of discriminative intellect? That intellect that differentiates what is real and what's not real. Satya, Ruta, that which is essentially what is real, what is the unreal, is that viveka. Distinguishing that is called viveka. So that is essentially that which is eternal and that is ephemeral. That which is nityam, what is anityam. That which is changing and that is which is changeless. In every changing thing there is a change which is imperceptible, but that's what I need. Viveka is to use a discriminative intellect which I cannot see directly through perception, but it is there because logically if A changes to a B, A and B, A may change into B, but there has to be a material balance. A law of conservation demands that A matter has to be conserved when A changes into B. That is the eternal entity and changeless entity in the changing things. But even the matter, everything is gone when I go to waking state, in a dream state and a deep sleep state. But what is changeless in all that is only I am. Because on all three states, I am a waker, I am a dreamer, I am the deep sleeper. Only thing that is changeless is I am, I am, I am. In all my transactions, I am, I am, I am is there. That alone is real, and that's what is called aham. So aham artha parityagat, by rejecting what is the wrong notions about myself. Aham brahma iti dhihi kutaha. So if you ask how can that be possible, it can be because of the proper understanding by Tyaga Lakshana. So antakarana samtyagat avasishte chidatmani. So in the chidatma, in the recognition that I am the consciousness, so it is I am settling the who am I inquiry will give that I am existent consciousness. But that does not tell me that I am the world. So that is only tvam padartha vichara. So then it says, aham brahmeti vakyena brahmatma sakshini chyate. Then I need something else to complete the story, where I am Chidatma, but also I have to understand through what? Through Vedanta Sravana, that consciousness that I am is infiniteness. Because the scripture says that Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahman, and that aham brahmeti vakyena brahmatva sakshini ichyate. So brahmatvam sakshini is ichyate. So aham brahma iti vakyena vicharena sakshini brahmatvam. I am the sakshi, which is the nature of the Brahman, is to be recognized. So how do there are two steps involved? First is, I have to reject what I am not. In the process, I am arriving that I am existent consciousness. Then I have to also understand that existent consciousness is infinite. But I don't see conscious entity outside. Then so even though existent consciousness is infinite, then I have to understand how can that be possible, because the whole world is inert mostly. Then how can I account for even the mind and the intellect? Forget about not only the world, even the mind and intellect are inert by nature. So what do I do? How can I be Brahmasmi? Brahmasmi is infinite, whereas these are not included in that because they are inert. When the Brahman is consciousness, how can they be? For that alone is a Vedanta Vichara is required. That's why it's called Paroksha Jnanam is required before we go to Aparoksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam is the whole world is nothing. Brahman Asti. Brahman means infinite consciousness exists. How can infinite consciousness exist when everything is inert here, or what I see? So that's why the objective scientists will say consciousness is not fundamental, matter is fundamental, because matter is what you see. So through all the five senses, I can only sense the matter only. But then there is a consciousness. How do that come? Then say somehow it came. That's how the objective scientists say. Whereas the Vedanta says no. You see, the consciousness cannot arise from inert things. How can? Because it's a completely variable. In fact, inert things can arise in the consciousness as though not even real. It appears to be there, just as in the dream examples he gives. Therefore, we have an illustration of the case where there is a possibility of things that arise. So when I say the whole Brahman is infinite, I have to also account through Vedanta Vichara by Sravana, Manana and Nididhyasana that what was there before is Sadeva Saumya Idamagramasid Ekameva Advitiyam Atmave Idamagramasid Ekameva Advitiyam. So by saying that existence alone was there or consciousness alone was there, therefore statements are being made in the Upanishad to say that Brahman is nothing but the whole universe as the very substantive. Universe is nothing but only Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadeyam. It's only Namke Vaste creation. There is no real creation in this world. And that's why Aham Brahmeti Vakyena, I am Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, this Mahavakya Vicharena Brahmatvam Sakshinityate. That consciousness that is illumining the self that I am is the same consciousness that is all pervading, has to be understood. And that is what is called Tattvamasi statement. Tattvamasi statement says I am is something, so conscious entity plus something else. Something else is not relevant because it's only a superficial entity, but substantive entity is nothing but pure existent consciousness which is limitless. That is called Satchidanandam, and Satchidanandam is real Brahman, and that's why it says Brahmarpanam Brahma Vihi Brahmagnyam Brahmanahudam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. It says Arpanam is Brahman. This is how can that be valid? Arpanam is inert, Brahman is consciousness, Arpanam is limited. Arpanam is ladle that used for pouring ghee, and that is limited, and Brahman is infinite. But when the scripture says, when Krishna says Brahma Arpanam, he is making an equation. So equation is only valid by Bhagatyaga Lakshana. That is dropping contradictory qualifications of this ladle and the Brahman. And what are the contradictory qualifications? Brahman is infinite and this ladle is finite. Brahman is consciousness, ladle is the unconsciousness, but Brahman exists and ladle exists. So what is that we are equating? The existence part of the ladle and the existence of the Brahman. The existence cannot be divided. Existence has to be infinite, and therefore that is the equation that Krishna makes its statement, Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havihi, Brahmagno, Brahman Ahutam, everything is nothing but Brahman. The one who is pouring ghee is Brahman, the ghee itself is Brahman, the ladle itself is Brahman, and the fire into which he is pouring is also Brahman, and the one who is pouring also Brahman. The result that comes out of the yajna is also Brahman. The one who enjoys also Brahman. Which means there is nothing other than Brahman. Because Brahman is being infinite, there cannot be anything other than Brahman. So essentially, Krishna providing a simple example for a Gruhastha, because in those days the yajnas are being performed by the Gruhastha, not by sannyasis. So that statement is valid for Gruhastha, and for him only says this is what one has to contemplate on. And that statement, the sloka we use for when we eat a food also. So antahkarana samtyagad avasishte chidatmani aham brahmeti vakyena brahmatva sakshini ichyate. So the sakshini brahmatvam, I am the sakshi. Sakshi is that part of the consciousness that is illumining the local BMI. So remember I gave you an example, my hand says the light is all over, but that part of the light that is falling on my hand, that we call it a sakshi. And the one that when it falls, it gets reflected by my hand, and only you are seeing the reflected light by the reflected light by the hand, and that is reaching your retina, forming an image, and you say you are seeing my hand. What you are seeing is only reflected light, and reflected light is what you thought is a hand, because you are getting carried away with the reflecting medium with the reflected light. Same way, I am getting carried away with the reflected consciousness by the buddhi, and saying that buddhi is I am, body is I am, intellect I am, because I can give up the body and go to dream state, and give up even the mind and go to deep sleep state. So I'm traveling different states because I'm able to give up that state and go to another state. Therefore I am the only one that I cannot give up with, because I should be there to give up. So only thing that is real, and that is which is permanent, and that which is inexhaustible, and that which remains all the time, that is Satyam and Nityam, and that is I am. And here is essentially Aham. That is nothing but the Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness, the original light that is falling on that, and the original light is not different from the total light. We call it either Sakshi or Kutastha Chaitanyam, and the consciousness cannot be divided as this Sakshi is different from that Sakshi, even though the same consciousness or same light is falling this hand and the table and that hand and so on. Yet light is indivisible. You cannot see the light, yet you can only say things because of the light only. It's very interesting in the sense that I cannot see any object without a light. I cannot see the light also without the object, or I cannot recognize the light without having an object reflecting. Same way, pure consciousness is all pervading, cannot be recognized unless there is a body, mind and intellect. So I need this body, I need this mind, and I need the intellect, and claim that I am not the body, I am not the mind, and I am not the intellect. Using the body, mind, intellect, I had to recognize that I am not this, but I am the pure consciousness. And that is what, see, Brahmatva Sakshini Ichyate. Ichyate is having to see. Ichyate is that I have to see means what? I have to understand clearly. That is called Jnana Chakshu, that develops when I contemplate on the truth as expounded by the Vedanta. So one has to have it clear, because a lot of wrong notions and wrong interpretations, and people say we don't need a mind, and we have to destroy the mind, we have to go beyond the mind, and all these words, we should not be thinking is a problem, stop thinking. Says thinking is a problem, that thinking that the thinking is a problem itself is a problem, because it's not the thinking, it is the wrong thinking is a problem. Right thinking is lift your mind up to that higher. So some people say it is the bhakti that is required. Bhakti is what? Bhakti is contemplating on the divine. In the process of divine, your wrong notions about yourself will be dropped out, because Ishvara is what? He is Sarvajnaha, Sarvasektiman, and Sarvavyapakaha also. He is pervading everywhere. So I should see in the bhakti, I should see the Lord everywhere. Then only the bhakti becomes a mature. And when I see Lord everywhere, who are you then? So I become one with the Lord, because there is no duality anymore. Because the Lord being infinite, He cannot be limited by anything. You see, therefore, one has to be ichyate. Ichyate here means clear understanding of the nature of the reality, and that is what here is specified here. And that statement is how the paroksha jnanam and the aparoksha jnanam are required in order to understand who am I. So now the Vidyaranya going to more details of the process of this Brahma knowledge. It says, why do mind requires? Because the mind itself is only understand the thoughts. Now is it a thoughtless process? And people claim that you should stop thinking, then only you will realize. So people make sure sit down and try to get rid of the thoughts. So it is here is going to clarify what exactly involved in the self-realization, because a lot of confusion arises, there are a lot of misconceptions on new Advaitins. This is a direct path, and you don't need to study of the scriptures, and all that is getting clarified in the statements by the Vidyaranya here. Swaprakashopi satsheva Swaprakashopi satsheva Devrutya vyapyatenyavad. Swaprakashopi satsheva Devrutya vyapyatenyavad. Palavyapyatvamevasya Shastrakrutbihi nivaritam. Together. Swaprakashopi satsheva Devrutya vyapyatenyavad. Palavyapyatvamevasya Shastrakrutbihi nivaritam. So here says Tadvijnanartam sa gurum eva abhigache samitpanihi sotriyam brahmanishtam. So Upanishad says, for that you go to a teacher and listen. And listen what? Here. How do you listen? Without the mind. You need the mind. Without thinking, you cannot understand anything what he says. So I have to think. So therefore, thinking is required, mind is required, study of the scriptures is required, and even Krishna says Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. So for that you go to a teacher and fall flat. Tadvid pranipatena. Pranipata means with complete the surrendering to the teacher. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena. By asking right questions. So appropriately, don't go to a teacher, going to a chemistry teacher and asking biology questions. What good is that? So he says, if you go to a chemistry teacher, you have to ask chemistry questions only. So if you go to an adhyatmic teacher, you have to ask only about related that, not about the world and what's happening here, what's happening there. That make no sense at all. So therefore, Krishna says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. So by pariprasna, by asking questions properly, with humility, you approach a teacher. Then what the teacher will do? Teacher shall answer to you. Krishna doesn't say that one, because teacher himself one day went to his teacher and got the knowledge by falling flat at his feet. Therefore, it becomes a duty of the teacher to teach whoever comes for Adhyatmika Vidya, whoever comes sincerely and devotedly comes for this study, because that's what his obligation to his teacher, because his teacher taught him like that. Therefore, he has to pass on the knowledge, and that's why we have the Guru Parampara is there, and also methodology of teaching is also specified in the process inherently, because he understood in a particular way from his teacher, and that teacher is going to teach in that way only, because that's what he learned. And therefore, that the question has to be raised by the buddhi only. Here, so prakashopi satsheva divrutya vyapyatenyavad. So divrutya, by the jnana vritti, that means by thinking only, Sakshi Swaprakasha api, even though Sakshi is self-revealing and self-existing entity, and Anyavatu, like unlike any other object, Vyapyate is known. So here statement is made, Jnana Vritti is needed and to eliminate the Ajnana Vritti. And Palavyapyatvam evasya shastrakrutibhi nivaritam. So Palavyapyatvam eva asya shastrakrutibhi says by the Palavyapti and alone is shastrakrutibhi by the Vedanta teachers nivartate is negated. So what did the teacher say? The whole statement we are going to analyze more exhaustively, because this essentially tells about the how the Vedantic knowledge is required, what exactly it does, and how it differs from all objective sciences that we see. So because Brahman is not an object, and therefore one has to be very careful how, but at the same time you go and learn by Shastra. So Shastra can only teach indirectly only. So what is the role of Shastra? What is the role of Jnana Vritti? What's the role of Vedanta study? And what is essentially self-realization involves? All that being discussed here, and because it has a Jnana Vritti is required, Vritti Jnanam is there, or Vritti Vyapti is there, there is no Palavyapti. That's what is the statement. So Prakasha upi, because Sakshi Swaprakashaha is self-shining, self-viewing, in fact is aprameyam, cannot be known, and Dhi Vrittya Vyapyati. So Dhi Vritti Vyapti is there, that means Vritti Vyapti is required. And Palavyapyatvam eva asya shastrakrutibhi nivaritam. There is no Palavyapti. So what is Vritti Vyapti, what is Palavyapti, and all that we will go to discuss a little bit more carefully to understand clearly how exactly the self-knowledge and why we need a Shastra Pramana, why we need a study of the scriptures, all that is going to be detailedly discussed by Vidyaranya in the few slokas that is going to come up with. So this is essential self-knowledge is being discussed in the name of that. Remember, the whole text itself is a commentary on the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Say Atma ched vida Atmanam ched vidaniyat ayamasmiti purushaha. So that statement is being explained, that has to be known. Atmanam. So one has to know the self, and vijaniyat, one should know. So how one should know the self? So that's exactly what is going to be discussed now, and we'll come back and discuss more carefully about the Vritti Vyapti and Palavyapti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.